Okay, we are live. And 3, 2, 1. All right, welcome on back to another edition of the Baltimore Beatdown Podcast. It is Wednesday, my dudes, June 24th, 2020. My name is Jake Luke, and I'm joined by my co-host, Spencer Nathaniel Schultz.
Howdy, people. We're filming Wednesday, my dudes, on Taco Tuesday. A little bit of rustled up news over the last couple of days, Ravens-wise. Hall spoke with the Baltimore press. Unfortunately, Kyle, our managing editor, is not able to participate for his own personal obligations, but the other upstanding journalists of the Baltimore press did a great job getting some good into that, as well as the coordinators on Tuesday heard from Horton. Not Hewitt, because Horton didn't hear a Hewitt, how I have to remember, because I still can get them confused in my head a little bit, as well as Wink Martindale and Greg Roman, a couple little nuggets in there. And yeah, some good stuff. We got a mailbag going on for the vast majority of. So Jake has a crispy new Baltimore Orioles hat on, it looks like, or that you've just kept it in great shape.
Yeah, I've had this for a while. It's just, I like to keep my hats in impeccable shape, unless I work out with them, in which case they will be drenched in sweat very quickly.
Just a nice salty crust.
Yeah, it's a tough scene for some of my hats. I can't even wear them in public anymore. And a lot of them are nice hats, so it's kind of my fault for, taking that route with them.
But your own favorite hat you work out in, because I get it's the most comfortable, but therefore can no longer wear it. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah, that's why you kind of want to go with some of the athletic gear ones. Shout out to Roback. They're obviously not sponsored this podcast, but they sponsor a lot of other ones that I listen to. Great athletic gear, great couple of hats that I have from them, actually. One of them I can wear, get relatively sweaty, and it still looks, relatively decent. So shout out to Roback.
Shout out to Roback. Shout out. So what was going on with Joe Rogan? Just Rogan. Why was Joe Rogan getting canceled? I couldn't find it. So it's
kind of weird. I was actually just reading an article from this on Outkick. I forget exactly who was writing it, but basically, and I had heard some other stuff on this, a couple of days prior to other people that listened to him. Essentially, it's that, and even I'm kind of on the side where I don't agree with him, where he's basically kind of treating COVID like a hoax. Not really, he agrees that it's a serious thing. But he's one of the people that's all right, well, if you're young and you're immune to it, you should be allowed to kind of move about freely. And he's joked around about the whole wearing a mask thing as making you look like a bitch or whatever is one of the jokes that he made. I'm just quoting him there. And I think some of it, I think he means it in a serious way, but I think some of the comments that he's made have been tongue-in-cheek, maybe a little taken out of context. But yeah, people are just trying to cancel him, I think, because of maybe some of the listener demographic that he represents, the sort of meathead, young dude who's maybe not necessarily going to be falling on the PC side of things. But yeah, I don't know if it's really grounds for cancellation as far as the way that it has gone in the past with other comedians. I think he's just a guy who doesn't have a filter, and we're in a weird time right now. And he has a platform where he's speaking literally 3 hours a day, a lot of the time. And yeah, he's just, going with that unfiltered comedian route to express some of the thoughts that he has that I don't think are crazy, but in the way that he's kind of communicating them have gotten him into some hot water. But I think he's going to be fine.
He is I don't know. That doesn't seem like cancel word ground or whatever. And
it's definitely not. It's just people who already dislike him to begin with, because he has certain personalities from, I'll just say it, the right side of the aisle on the conservative side, I should say. And people really don't agree with him giving those people platforms. And I don't think it's any secret that I probably don't agree with a lot of those people on certain things, but I appreciate I appreciate his right to chat with them. And also, especially because he has people from, I think, all perspectives on to
that's the important part. Because I've been a long time listener. I'm a consistent listener, but
me neither.
If I see a good or I'm on a road trip or on a long drive or something, if I'm flying anything, is pop Rogan on heavy in the rotation for years.
Yeah, for me, it's very hit or miss. I don't really care a lot about the MMA stuff that he does, which is a lot of his guests, because I'm not a huge MMA fan. I'm trying to get into it a little bit, but I'll listen to those sometimes for like the fitness stuff, but I'm not super into it. When he'll have like other comedians like Steve Sharippa and Michael Imperioli were on there the other day. They were both guys that were on The Sopranos. That was great. I was talking to on this show about his Bill Burr episode recently, which was awesome. And Bill Burr actually really came hard back at him on the mask stuff and the COVID stuff. And it was really funny. And like, he took it in stride. So like, I think it's really a situation they're trying to cancel him, or the people that are trying to cancel him kind of already disliked him. And now they're looking for reason to do so for this. And for some of the jokes that he's made in the past, which like, frankly, they aren't okay today, but like, at the time, it's like, what are you going to do? Like, he said it 15 years ago in a stand-up routine. And at the time, it was looked at as acceptable. So I think weirdly, it's a thing where I just think people on both sides kind of take him too seriously. Like, you have people that are trying to cancel him, or like, oh, well, this is, like, this is dangerous, stuff that he's saying, and all this, he's pandering to this crazy audience. And then like, there actually are people that are somewhat crazy that follow him and take his word as gospel. I think he's just like a pop culture icon that talks into a microphone for like 3 hours a day. And, sometimes you're going to say stupid shit.
But like you said, I mean, he really does. Like, he makes fun of himself. He'll have guests. He has guests on from one side or the other, but based on interesting, like, he to let people, talk their talk and all that good stuff. I guess it's very easy to take him out of context. And from listening to him for a long time, you can tell that like, he's aware of how big of an idiot he was throughout his life, different times, and fully makes fun of it. Like, he's a deprecating comedian like everyone else. So he's more aware of how stupid he was doing were, 5, 10, 30 years ago, whatever were.
And it's not it's not a full pass that he gets, because he does, even like when he's making these COVID arguments, he like says, and by the way, like, I'm an idiot and I don't know what I'm talking about. And like, that's fine. But like, you do also have a big platform where you're preaching to a young, impressionable audience in certain cases. So maybe tighten it up a little bit. But to me, it's just really not that serious one way or the other.
Exactly. But moving on to things that are a little more serious, there has
things off. I love it.
I mean, I love Rogan. And I've got his back. I've definitely got his back. I do like May stuff a bit, so I can understand if he has Brendan Schaub on. You're probably like, I don't really care, like, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Like you said, hit or miss. I can turn one of his episodes on and be like, oh my god, I'm not listening to this. Like, after like 5 minutes, like, out of every podcast I do or anything I listen to or watch consistently over time, the one that can turn me off the most easily, like the most quickly, is his show. Where I'll put it on in the car for like 7 minutes and be like, yeah, this episode.
Right away whether it's going to be listenable or not. But yeah, like, it's funny because like, I talk about him as like a pop culture icon. So like, if I find somebody in culture that I find interesting, I'll Google them and Joe Rogan to see if they've done an interview. And I actually did that with Sturgill Simpson, country, maybe not even country artist, actor. Yeah, he's a fucking awesome dude. Like, really,
was he really sick, or am I crazy?
No, he got like injured.
I think like not injured. Okay. But no, I'm saying like recently I thought he had some scare and they thought it was COVID, but it actually wasn't.
No,
like in the last couple of months.
Actually, maybe, I'm not sure, but yeah, he's great on Rogan. He's been on several times and they're good friends. Mm-hmm. So that's one to check out for sure.
Absolutely. But yeah, on from that, maybe some of you guys have no clue what we're talking about, Joe Rogan, but I would recommend giving him a listen. He does, as Jake said, talk for 3 hours every day and have very like Elon Musk, like crazy guests, like otherworldly guests that are from all walks of life. But moving on, we have a fat section. Yeah, exactly. I think his show, he really does do a good job of that too. Like the way that he's a great interviewer. He's a really good interviewer.
Yeah, exactly. And like his we're definitely getting deep in the Rogan talk here. We can end it quickly, but his I think his interview with Bernie, I didn't agree with like 100% of the stuff Bernie was saying. And after listening to that interview, I was like, well, maybe it's like the way that he was saying it, because like political debates, it's literally just designed so that you can get a soundbite and like score a point on a stage. Like listening to that, like whatever 3-hour interview it was, he got a chance to like fully flesh out his arguments. And I came away pretty impressed on both sides.
Yeah. Definitely can. Absolutely. I don't think I actually listened to that one, but I've definitely been on the Bernie side of some things at different times. So good. Love to see it. But yeah, he gives his guests a good opportunity, a good platform to humanize themselves, as you said, and get
And
their
I would
air
say
out.
we probably do model ourselves after him a little bit, whether consciously or not.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
So if
Definitely.
you like us, you probably like
the more casual kind of interview style we like to do and things like that. For sure, I think come in part from listening to Joe Rogan. But without further ado, let's transition over into the mailbag, which does cover some AB news. And that's something that obviously Jake and I have talked about quite a bit at different times. We're a little bit on different sides of the aisle ourselves, but we both, I think, are in tune of seeing the kind of cost versus risk. But we'll get into it when the questions come up. I will throw them up right now. The first one that I have is from Githens Mazer, a longtime listener. His question escaped me. He said, this season or next season for a win now mentality? That's phrased as a question. So should this season be a win now mentality or next season? And does this affect the AB situation? So that dives us right in with the most recent one that we have. I would say you have to be win now both this season and next season. They have an MVP quarterback on a rookie contract. And we saw, the Chiefs were in win now mode, I guess this past season a little bit more because they knew what they had. So that's why, looking back to the Chiefs 2018 into 2019, you can compare the Ravens now, who just seem to be a year behind that schedule, as those two get compared so much. And Lamar spoke on that recently a little bit about how it annoys him and whatever. But with a good quarterback on a rookie contract, you got to win now. You got to make the moves. You like to see some stability. You don't want to see them, do what the Rams did and mortgage the house twice, 3 times to try and get to that dance, because that's not sustainable. And that's not the way to have a good, successful business or football team or franchise, however you want to spin it. But definitely both years now, they're in win now. And this year will give them even more an idea, if they do fall short of the ultimate goal of winning a Super Bowl, how they can go even more into win now. But I do believe both years you have to have that mentality.
Yeah, it's definitely both years. I think this year for sure, it's weird because they're in a spot where they haven't won a playoff game with Lamar yet. And obviously that is a weird entire conversation unto itself, where I think it's maybe a little bit of an unfair narrative being forced onto him, but not for nothing. He's been twice. He hasn't won a single game yet. And I think he does need to win a game in the playoffs first before you can really start discussing a Super Bowl seriously. So that could even be this season. Maybe you say, they win one and it's like, all right, gear up, let's go win the damn thing. But for now, I think that needs to be the focus, is to get to the conference championship game, try to get it done. But you're definitely trying to win now this year. You're trying to win now next year. It does, I think, affect the AB situation in the sense that I don't even, if they were not in a position where they thought they were going to be winning Super Bowl, I don't think they would even be discussing it internally, as has been reported by Mike Silver. And the speculation has been going on for a while now. So I don't even think that would be in the conversation if they weren't trying to win a ring in 2020 and potentially 2021. So yes, I think it's very much both years win now. Absolutely.
Well said. We'll just move on because there's more AB questions. We'll back to them. But Joe Boken, Ninja JC, frequent listener or longtime listener, I guess, asks, which first round pick would you be most shocked to lose in free agency? So that's going to be between Ronnie Stanley, Marlon Humphrey. Who else is a first round pick? I guess just those two.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Said, which first round pick would you be most shocked to see the Ravens lose in free agency? So the ones Jackson. That are, I guess Lamar as well. Yeah.
Hayden Hurst. Matt Elam.
Hayden. I'm so curious about Halem.
I
just combined those. I said Hayden Hurst, and Matt Elam. That would be a weird player. I'm so curious about what Hayden Hurst can do in Atlanta. But to the question, I mean, obviously, you're shocked, like, at the idea of losing Lamar, and you have to think if he's playing at a successful, sustainable rate, that's just not in the cards. He's not going anywhere. So I would put it between.
I was just kind of throwing that out there in jest, honestly, but
yeah.
For me, I think it would be Stanley personally, just to kind of directly get to the question. I think Humphrey might even be a better player than Stanley, but it would shock me to see them lose Stanley more, just with the situation you're in, where he is young. He's at what I think is probably the most important position outside of quarterback at left tackle. He's protecting for a young quarterback, and it just seems like the chemistry is there where I think they're probably going to wind up retaining both if I had to, put money down on it, and maybe that's a cop-out answer. But I think I would probably be surprised to see them let go of Lamar's bodyguard, as it were, as opposed to a defensive back, which they pretty much have an abundance of.
Yeah. The one way that Stanley wouldn't shock me is if he gets really injured, perhaps. And they're kind of in similar situations. I mean, Stanley is at the prime age for attack. Like tackles play a long ass time, like deep in, like look at Andrew Whitworth.
That's part of it too. I think like the longevity factor.
Absolutely. Tackles can really play for a long time, especially guys that are athletic like him. He is very durable as far as being a consistent starter, being available and in the lineup. Him and Mark Andrews both eternally worry me because they always get dinged up, but never injured. Like they get like beaten up for a game or two and they're like a little limited or something. They don't miss games that much though. Andrew's obviously only 2 years in, so it's kind of early to judge him that way, but that's the one difference. Whereas, Orlando Brown is at right tackle. So obviously he played left tackle at Oklahoma. You're probably comfortable sliding him over if you were to lose Ronnie Stanley. You have Marcus Peters on the roster. You have Tavon Young. You have clearly the Ravens are amazing at evaluating and finding and maximizing the talent of cornerbacks. So kind of similar situations where they're in a deep room. But yeah, I guess I'm going to go with Marbury a little bit. It would shock me because I think he just fits them and enjoys being in Baltimore. And I think they've treated him really well and he meshes well and everything. I just have a very, very hard time seeing him in another jersey. But moving on, ZJ Batman asks, how much could a training camp shot for AB really hurt? If he's bad, he just gets cut.
So are we doing this?
Yeah, we'll do it. Well, let me just read the Antonio Brown questions, and it'll just let it all seep in. Let me just rattle a bunch off real quick.
Go for it.
So ZJ Batman asked that one. Githens Mazer, we already covered his. A Foot said AB, and he said AB Jamal Adams. I'm guessing that's autocorrect. Probably meant AB or Jamal Adams. Ecto Cooler asked, do we want Antonio Brown? Max Sloan, who has a better chance at gaining AB, the Ravens or the Seahawks? What do we think about the AB news? Alex Meerman asked. And I think those are all of them. So we can just fuse all of that into mega. So we'll go part one. Do we want Antonio Brown? Asked by Ecto Kohler. I want Antonio Brown.
And Hirsch. Shout out to Hirsch.
Shout out Hirsch. I want Antonio Brown, but it's like a fantasy that I feel like it's like I don't want to say I want to win the lottery, but it's like I want a brand new Tesla right now. Like it's just really fucking hard to do that for my own personal situation, whatever. Like I just feel like it's like not unattainable, but just I feel like it's such a long shot that it's going to be like I tweeted today and was like, like my soul will vacate my body if I get to see Antonio Brown, Lamar Jackson, and Hollywood celebrating in the end zone after AB has a 2-touchdown day on the Steelers. Like that is the ultimate.
Here's the thing. Do you want a Honda Accord that is going to last you 5 years, beyond 5 years potentially, which could be another free agent wide receiver? It could be any wide receiver on the team right now. Do you want a Ferrari that has a chance to combust within the first mile of you driving it? Is the way I kind of see what you're looking at it as right now.
Kind of, but I just don't think that bringing him in initially like that, this is the fuzzy part. If they bring him in, you saw what he did with the Raiders. He fucking brought the helicopter into practice. It was all on hard.
So I prepped for this a little bit.
Good.
So play a little game. Antonio Brown headlines is what the game is called.
Okay.
So I've got about 12 headlines here. I think it's around 12. First one.
I love this.
December 31st, 2018, and this is from the Washington Post. Report. Antonio Brown was benched after dispute with Ben Roethlisberger. So this is from the article. Reports Monday claimed Brown was benched following a dispute with Pittsburgh quarterback Ben Roethlisberger. According to Jason La Canfora of CBS Sports, the altercation with Roethlisberger was fairly ugly, and Brown was said to be totally in the wrong. Number 2. February 12th, 2019, from CBS Pittsburgh. Antonio Brown found guilty in speeding incident, ordered to pay fine. The NFL wide receiver was cited after being pulled over for driving in excess of 100 miles per hour in a 45 mile per hour zone on McKnight Road in Ross Township in November 8th, 2018. Shout out to any Pittsburgh listeners, if there are any. We love you. 3. February 12th, 2019. Antonio Brown tweets goodbye. Time to move on. March 13th, 2019. From Sports Illustrated, Steelers trade wide receiver Antonio Brown to the Raiders. A winners and losers piece from NFL.com lists Brown, Mike Mayock and John Gruden, Las Vegas season ticket holders, Derek Carr as the winners. They listed Steelers GM Kevin Colbert as the loser, among others. August 9th, 2019 from ESPN. Sources, AB says no football without old helmet. Of course, this is all taking place as he is dealing with a foot injury after burning his feet in cryotherapy. So here's from the article from Adam Schefter. Brown wants to wear the helmet he prefers, not one of the newer model helmets that league rules mandate, league sources said. Brown believes the new certified helmet protrudes out and interferes with his vision as he tries to catch the football. Gotta hate that protruded vision. The Raiders have been sending Brown other approved helmets to wear, but at this time he is not interested in wearing any of them. He's not interested. Brown appeared to refer to an internal debate about walking away from football by posting Friday an Instagram caption paraphrasing the 2002 movie Paid in Full. Never seen it. Gonna have to check that out. League sources also told ESPN that Brown's recent absence from Raiders training camp has more to do with his helmet than with his feet. So that's where the whole cryotherapy thing comes into play. September 6th, 2019, from Bleacher Report. Antonio Brown called Raiders Mike Mayock a cracker during altercation. See if I have anything for that. Oakland Raiders wide receiver Antonio Brown reportedly began and escalated Wednesday's altercation with Mike Mayock. According to Josina Anderson of ESPN, Brown approached Mayock to complain about a recent fine. I guess that's for the helmet, before calling him a cracker and using a barrage of cuss words directed at the first-year GM. A team source said Mayock walked away because he saw it escalate while other players held Brown back. September 7th, 2019, from Bleacher Report. Antonio Brown released by Raiders after fine for Mayock incident voids contract. So Antonio Brown's Oakland Raiders career ended with 0 games played as the franchise released the 7-time Pro Bowler on Saturday. Brown requested his release Saturday morning in a post on Instagram. A lot of Instagram takes going on here. After the Raiders voided the guarantees in his contract by fining him over $215,000 for conduct detrimental to the team following an altercation with with general manager Mike Mayock, per Adam Schefter of ESPN. He promptly signs with the Patriots. I think, what was that, like within that week or so?
Yes.
So he signs with the Patriots, plays in week 2 against Miami. He played a game.
At this point, oh my God, he's a genius. He got the Steelers.
Yeah, I remember. I wanted to bring this up because I remember you were talking about him like he was this like mad scientist, and I was like, I don't know, dude. Like he just seems like kind of an unhinged like personality at this point.
Yes, keep.
So he plays in that game. He scores a touchdown. September 10th, 2019. This is from the New York Times. Do you remember what we were doing this night, I should say?
September 10th,
2019, after the Dolphins game.
No.
This was when we were interviewing Will Brinson.
Okay. Oh. Yes.
So September 10th, 2019, from the failing New York Times. Antonio Brown accused of rape in a lawsuit. So for anyone that doesn't know the backstory, for any long-time listeners that do in fact remember that interview we did with Will Brinson of CBS Sports, who is awesome dude. We're literally in the middle of chatting with him, and he just kind of nonchalantly drops. I think we were talking about Antonio Brown, and he just nonchalantly drops like, and yeah, I don't know if you guys are seeing, but there's something not so great leaking about Antonio Brown on Twitter. And I think we were both so locked into like interview mode that neither of us really looked at it right away. And then we like looked at it.
You and Will were still engaging in a question and said that, and I looked it up, and then I privately messaged you.
Yeah,
Like, my God, this A buff is insane. And then you looked at it and you were like, Will, you need some time, dude? Because like we have Danny writes for NFL.com. And he's like, guys, I'll be back in an hour or two. This is huge, like blah, blah, blah. So he like gets off, hops off, crushes an article, gets back on with us, which was so nice of him. He didn't have to do that.
Yeah, it was great. And there's no like discernible cut in the interview. I think we might have mentioned that happened, but in case we did not, yeah, there's your story on that. The Will Brinson interview was technically a two-parter because he had to write up the Antonio Brown rape
allegation
allegation lawsuit, whatever, for CBS Sports.
Right.
September 20th, 2019, the failing New York Times again. Antonio Brown is released by the New England Patriots. So the New England Patriots released Antonio Brown on Friday afternoon, ending his brief but turbulent tenure with the team as the NFL was investigating him for multiple accusations of inappropriate sexual behavior, including rape. The New England Patriots are releasing Antonio Brown. The team said in a statement, "We appreciate the hard work of many people over the past 11 days, but we feel that it is best to move in a different direction at this time." Kathy Lanier, the NFL's chief of security, met on Friday with an unnamed woman. So this is different than the previous accusation, who said she endured unwelcome sexual advances from Brown 2 years ago. This week, the woman accused the wide receiver of sending her texts she found intimidating, which you can actually go back and find those texts. I'm not going to read them all because there's a lot of them and they are somewhat disturbing. But yeah, and I think that is all we have. Oh, wait, no, we got some more. So 10th headline, January 13th, 2020 from the Miami Herald. This is a fun one. Former NFL star Antonio Brown waved a bag of D blank blank KS at cops. So I'm guessing he was waving a bag of ducks or something at the cops, and just things just really escalated. So in this one, NFL free agent Antonio Brown was back in the news as he cursed out and shook a bag of penis-shaped gummies, so not ducks, at Hollywood police on Monday following an altercation with his ex-girlfriend. So I think this is the one where he's like filming himself screaming at the cops about his like Bentley or whatever. Hollywood police said that they have had enough with Brown and his disrespectful behavior and have returned his check and forbade him from working with their kids program. Interesting to be doing business with him in that respect, even at the time. The most recent incident started Monday morning when Brown streamed a live video on Instagram of him talking derisively to Hollywood police. He complained about a woman who the New York Post reported is his ex, Kelsey, blocking his driveway and trying to make off with his Bentley. I actually took some of the video. I'm not going to play it. It's pretty weird. January 23rd, 2020, second to last one, or last one actually. It's from Business Insider. Police say Antonio Brown has locked himself in his home after an alleged battery incident involving his trainer and a moving truck driver. After the movers arrived, a disturbance occurred between the driver, Brown, and Brown's trainer, police said. On Wednesday night, the police issued an arrest warrant for Brown, saying he faces charges of burglary with battery, burglary of an unoccupied conveyance, and criminal mischief, according to ESPN. According to court documents by TMZ, police say Brown threw a rock at the moving truck, refused to cover the cost of the damage, then physically struck the driver. On June 12th, 2020, so that's pretty recently, he pled no contest to all charges, accepting 2 years probation. So that's all I had as far as headlines. There's probably more, but essentially I just wanted to bring a little prep into this and read that out because there was a lot of gray area on Twitter today. I think I saw MD Law So Hard talking about this a little bit, about how like, if you're going to criticize him, like don't bring up like domestic violence allegations. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Like I probably wasn't making that argument, but just to clarify a little bit why I'm still a little skeeved out by this whole thing and not especially interested in the Antonio Brown experience. That's just like a handful of things that have happened over the past probably 2 years at this point with him. And that's just kind of my 2 years. Yeah, it's just, it's a situation that just completely skeeves me out, weirds me out. I'm not into it. I hope for his sake and for the sake of people in his lives, he has gotten his shit together. It kind of seems like he's been a little quieter as far as the news cycle has gone. We've covered a little bit of it recently with him working out with Lamar in Hollywood. That's totally fine with me. I think I said at the time, I don't mind them hanging out, especially in a professional respect. I think he could learn a lot from him. But yeah, man, just a weird situation. And I have no interest in them signing him, pretty much for all of those reasons. But you have the floor.
I am interested for sure. My main question or hesitation is, if it goes south, what is the ripple effect? How much does that derail the Ravens organization, team, season, locker room, whatever? And I just really have a lot of trouble imagining it being that bad. I can imagine, like, the Ravens, Mayock, the Raiders got screwed by Hard Knocks, like being chosen for Hard Knocks. Amidst that magnified and intensified and made this whole shitstorm for them. And then, AB made his way to New England. Everything was dandy. And then this allegation comes out. I'm not going to get into the allegation a ton. I can go off about that, about the trainer and how Antonio Brown set up she had a fake gym with no real actual residents and was like charging a bunch of people. There's really sketchy stuff going on with that entire situation. Hard to get a good read on it. So whatever, look it up for yourself, make your own decision. But he clearly was, off of his rocker after the rape thing, that it went from like him being a diva to him being like a lick. And the helmet thing was really fucking annoying. It all made sense for me in that moment of, well, the foot thing, you're like, all right, whatever. I mean, I guess he was trying to recover. I don't think he did that on purpose. Well, that would be, who knows? I don't even know. So that's not even worth talking about. But the helmet thing, then him going to this, I was like, all right, that all makes sense. But since then, clearly he had an unstable situation at home and mentally and personally, as far as, who he was surrounding himself with, what activities he was choosing to participate in, shooting rap videos. It was fun and whatever, like those. So they're horrible. The worst music. It was like him act this rock star, whatever, for a little while. And like, you go back and you look at, like, Ravens fans know him well. We've been getting our eye by him for, a freaking decade much, and having holidays by him. And it's just so crazy. It all stems back to Ben Roethlisberger him out on that Pittsburgh radio station after Ben threw that pick into that goal at the goal line, and then said Abe could have ran a more shallow route, was so ridiculously sick. And then from there, just like sent him spiraling out of control. The shit with Juju Schuster and all that stuff. So I mean,
that's one thing I didn't even cover in all this, is like, that's
right,
kind of part of the point.
Like getting mad about the team MVP thing and like all that. And so the question is just, the Ravens, say the Ravens are about 3 weeks from the regular season. God willing, the season's going to happen. Whole other freaking, God, I hate my life. But the Ravens out, they signed Antonio Brown. They bring him to camp. He acts great for the first week. Media comes in floods and does even more than they would with Lamar. And we kind of saw that last year. It's got more national media coverage than they did in a long time before Lamar even had his MVP season. So that just brings a media circus and makes the DaCosta and Harbaugh and Pass and the Ravens brass all just have to really run a tight ship. Say, 10 days in, 13 days in, something, AB starts being a dickhead and there's an issue of some. At that first issue, it's over. The Ravens don't put up with that kind of stuff. They've been extremely tight security-wise, and as far as, players committing crimes and all that. Like Bernard Pierce famously said when he got his DUI, do you know who I play for? I play for the Ravens. I'm going to be cut tomorrow because they've had to deal with, Ray Lewis's situation. They had to deal with Ray Rice's situation, and Steve Bisciotti said no more, domestic violence. That's why it's pertinent that MD Law So Hard, our boy, said, there's no actual tangible domestic violence because the Ravens a no-go, a red, a stop sign on anything domestic violence. Bisciotti said that he is the top dog. So of course that's not going to bring anything in. So, I mean, these internal conversations is what it boils down to. And I think it's how bad can it get? That's the ultimate question. How bad can it be? What happens if we bring him in for 2 weeks and he fools us, acts like a psycho? How bad is it if we just immediately cut ties with him? And I just don't think it's that bad. I think it's like, all right, whatever. Start of the season, you hear about it a little bit, but then by week 8, he's cut and doing some other crazy shit. But I mean, he did kind of linger with the Patriots. He lingered in the media and stuff. And it's just like, it's hard to tell how big of a detriment it can be if he lingers for a little with some social media posts and shit. And let's say he starts saying like, "Oh, Lamar can't throw, fuck Lamar," like whatever. Like that's worst case. And how bad is that? My question. And I can't really answer. I can kind of guess and stuff, but it's just impossible to tell. And it feels like that is slightly more likely, like 20% more likely, let's say, than a situation where he is about 80% as good as he was 3 years ago. And, you know, the Ravens have Hollywood and Andrews and Antonio Brown and that is, and Lamar, and that, you know, adding an all-pro receiver to the NFL's top scoring offense and all that stuff. It's really difficult to guess and evaluate, you know, how much of a risk are the Ravens willing to take? How big of a risk do they consider it? And that is what the internal conversation that is reported by, you know, ESPN and everyone, Michael Silver, has to be. How big of a risk is it for us to bring him in? How big is the reward? How likely do we see this going well? How likely do we see this turning poorly? And you just feel so stupid if you bring him in. You just feel so stupid and go through all the hoops. And if you bring him in and it scorns you, you just are mad at yourself for doing it. But in this case, I mean, for me, it's just like, if he isn't being a model citizen and you let him go and he has some shit to talk on social media, the Ravens are just a tight-knit organization. That's why I feel like them and the Seahawks are the two teams that are having this conversation. The Patriots got scorned by it a little bit, but they don't care. They have had a million scandals and controversies. They had Aaron Hernandez and won Super Bowls after that, like easily. Whereas that's the kind of thing that can, like, I don't know, derail the Detroit Lions if they had ever been good for another 5 years or something. So it's just difficult. I think bringing him in is like a 1 in 4 chance of turning out really well, and like a 2 in 4 chance of going really bad, and a 1 in 4 chance as well of like being not a big deal and they part ways with him or something. So I would say it's probably double the risk that it is the reward.
Yeah, so it's
probability wise.
A lot of interesting points, really well-made points by you, I think. And I think especially looking at it as the cost-benefit analysis, I get it, and I want to make very clear that if they do sign him, I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he's a model citizen.
Of course. We want him to succeed. You want him to stop being a jerk. You want him to have a good life. You want him to be successful and have a good life stuff. We wish the best, of course.
Right, and it's not going to be a deal breaker for me if they do sign him. I'm just going to be very wary that things are going to go wrong in a way where, and I know we talked about how there is no domestic violence or anything like that, but all that shit is out there in the ether. Like all those sexual assault allegations and stuff, they're out there. And that's enough to make me raise my eyebrow a little bit. And it would ring a little bit hollow. All the DV stuff after Ray Rice, the zero tolerance policy, it would just ring a little bit hollow for me. And especially this would feel a little bit rich. And I kind of hate to make this comparison, but all fucking hand-wringing that went on with the Colin Kaepernick thing and Steve Bisciotti saying, "Pray for us," tongue-in-cheek or not, I think Bisciotti's a good guy. I think he was taken maybe even a little out of context there. But that whole thing, that was just an ordeal for like 3 weeks. Should we sign him? Should we not? He would have helped your team. You didn't sign him because he would maybe piss a few fans off. Like, this wouldn't really piss me off necessarily, but there's just a lot of smoke out there that makes me think this dude is just a time bomb waiting to blow in one fashion or another. And it would just, all the stuff that I've praised them for coming around on, it would maybe start to ring a little bit more hollow for me.
I can definitely see, I think that is true for sure. The only way to kind of counteract that and keep it from being hollow, and it probably still feels hollow, you know, the Ravens announced they're signing him and he's to partake in mental health counseling, and the Ravens have him with team doctors and he wants to do this, to do that. He really does want to make it improve. Of course, you know, good Christian, you want a second chance. That's what it's all about. You want to see him redeem. I lost my freaking train of thought. Oh, this is my other question. If this was happening, and let's say Lamar had just had another year's belt and been proven, established, and all graces, all good. He's been a model in times a billion. You have Hollywood Brown too. Like, it feels like Lamar isn't just like, at first I kind of was like, oh, Lamar's just kind of being respectful because, you know, him and Wood and AB and whatever. I feel like Lamar really does want AB.
He like tagged him in a blank Instagram story the other day.
Yeah, and they've been together more times about, I'm sure, probably 10, 12 times, some sort down there in that area. And I'm just so curious. Lamar Sound, the Hollywood Brown article, open eyes. They said, Flacco doesn't have any in who we bring in, and then you hear Hollywood end up kind of spilling the beans that Lamar told the Ravens organization. They were like, hey, who do you want as your number one? We're going to try and get them for you in the next couple of years so you can develop together. He said, Jerry Jeudy, Hollywood Brown. They immediately got him Hollywood Brown, give him everything he wants to succeed. So Lamar goes down and is like, I've been around him. Like, I will shoulder this. I can, let's say Lamar has that kind of, like, does he have that kind of aura, leadership quality? Like, I can shoulder this. I am on terms with Antonio Brown. They understand each other. Let's go win a Super Bowl. Let's in everyone's face. Like, I feel like Lamar has that a little bit, like that respect almost, but he's just, it's too early. He doesn't have it. Like, I was mentioning earlier, there's a case where Antonio Brown's like, fuck Lamar Jackson, fuck John Harbaugh, like this, and this.
I don't even care. Like, if that happens, then fuck him. Like, it's not
exactly. But that's worst case. Like, how much Lamar and Hollywood have and say in this, and how much do they actually have to? That is, it's his and their freaking. I think their moms or sisters. Hollywood Brown and Antonio, they grew up together. Like, they're not some estranged cousins that, one lived in Texas, one lived in, like, my cousin living in California. I don't know them all that well. Like, they were family, like close family from the same area.
Yeah, they're good friends.
How much they have to being like, we trust Antonio Brown. We want to bring him in here. Let us, trust how. I'm just very curious about that. That has to be part of the conversation. Lamar just won a freaking MVP. You want to win a freaking Super Bowl. He has to be part of those talks. He has to be, saying to somebody, I want him or something. And that is the thing I'm curious. And do they have a close relationship and an understanding, being from the same area, working together and stuff? Hollywood obviously being his family. Do they have a relationship where they can be like, look, like, you've been a fucking nutcase, man. We want to bring you in, get you back in good graces, get your life back together, help you, but you to help us. You're incredible. We want your football talent. We love you. We love hanging out with you. We think you'd be for the locker room, whatever. I mean, everyone in Pittsburgh for like 7 years was like, Antonio Brown's the best. Like, we love him. He's such a great guy. Big smile. Every Steelers fan has an Antonio Brown jersey. And then in like a year and a half, he just goes full diva, now full psycho. So I just have a lot of questions and a lot of things, and I'm just so curious about it. And it is such a good talking point.
I will say to that point, you're right that a lot of people in the fan base especially thought that way, but there were some guys who talked about how this guy is just an egomaniac. I think it might have been Ryan Clark. Mike Wallace, Ryan Clark. I think Ike Taylor maybe at one point was like, yeah, this guy, or no, not Ike Taylor. It was definitely Ryan Clark was like, yeah, this guy's like a psycho. Like, once he gets paid, like, you're just opening up a can of worms that you're not going to be able to close again. And I do think your other point about Lamar and Hollywood kind of wanting to get him out of the gutter a little bit, I think that's well-intentioned. I think that's probably where their head actually is at right now and why they're embracing this idea and maybe trying to make this thing happen behind the scenes. I think it's very
and it could be hollow in a sense where maybe Lamar doesn't actually want him on the Ravens. Like, yeah, maybe he's just.
So I think it's
trying to be a good guy.
Yeah, right. And I think they're very well intentioned. I think they do want to help him. I mean, they want him as teammates because he's a great player in theory. But I do think they do want to help him genuinely because they're 22-year-old kids. They should be seniors in college right now. And they don't know what it's like to be in the NFL with a teammate that has gone off the rails yet. So right. I think
because they've been in the Ravens locker room who doesn't allow that shit.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, and because they've only been in the league for a year and
yes.
So I think if maybe you were to approach a more grizzled veteran who maybe has played with a guy who's
Earl Thomas,
sure, a guy who kind of has been sort of a little bit of a head case like that, they're like, maybe do we want to go down this road again? And now, like, look at Harbaugh. I don't know how much attention he pays to all this Bernard Pollard stuff, but he's like, I really don't want to go down this road again, maybe. And that's coming from his experience of having been an NFL coach for 30 plus years at this point, 10 plus.
He dealt with the Ray Rice shit, and that's different and whatever. But that, he dealt with a player that created a media circus for those kinds of reasons and things of the sort.
So I think on the one hand, I see the 22-year-old kids that are good friends with this guy that just want to see him turn his life around, get his shit on track, get his life together, and become a productive, great wide receiver again without making headlines for the wrong reasons. I see that. I think their head is in the right place. Their heart is in the right place, but I don't really agree with the fact that it needs to happen here. Like I said, I wish Antonio Brown all the best, but I don't have any interest in sending the team down this road. And it's like you said, I don't think there's going to be any like long-term fallout from it or anything, or at least there's a small percentage of that. I don't want to take that risk personally, having been through it as a fan before. And yeah, it's just pretty much all I have to say on the matter.
Sure. And another final question I have is, like, let's say AB played out last year with the Patriots. Like, let's say, and I'm not trying to hide them or anything. He obviously did some weird stuff with his trainer and whatever, but that, surfaced amidst that. And let's say AB played out last year with the Patriots, had, averaged 70 yards a game, scored 8 touchdowns or something, like was really effective. Like, there's just so many different ways that these things could have played out slightly differently, tinker with a little bit. And it's just, I don't know, very fascinating. I enjoy it as a talking point. I think it's good to go through hypotheticals and examine, the Ravens front office and decisions that they made and reflect it and try it against history and things like that. So it's a fun activity. But in the end,
point on that is like talking about these last 2 years. Ozzie Newsome, I don't know if he still does, but he had a sign in his office that he would bring into the draft room that said the best indicator of future behavior or future performance is past behavior or past performance. So I think that might weigh heavily into this, which is why I would think it's maybe not going to happen, but who knows? They're definitely in a win now window, like Githens Mazer was mentioning. So maybe they're going to be looking at it from that cost benefit analysis like you were talking about.
And maybe the best case scenario through all of it in the end is to not sign him. And like I said, I would put about a 25% chance, in my opinion, that it turns out well and everything goes well, and about a 50% chance that it's a complete shit show. But let's say they don't go through with it, but they kind of mentally run through and ask a bunch of questions and more advanced stuff than we'll ever know and have just discussed, of course. But they go through and they brace themselves for that kind of addition. And let's just say the Seahawks swoop them up instead, or something, or they just never end up pulling the trigger, whatever, they avoid it. It's just a good conversation to have. And let's say, the Ravens just move that peg up one this year and they win a playoff game, go to the AFC Championship game maybe, but don't quite make it to the Super Bowl. Maybe then next year there's another situation similar to this, like let's say a Stephon Diggs type situation or something like that. And they're just that much more prepared to handle it because they've already had these talks and kind of treated it as a drill almost. So it definitely, I think, talking about it.
Yeah, you're right in that sense. It's very good to intellectually challenge yourself in that way. And especially because I think you kind of do need to take a couple of risks to maybe go and win a Super Bowl. It's just determining what the risk is ultimately going to cost you if things go wrong and what the benefit is going to be. I mean, Kansas City trades for Frank Clark, a guy who had some stuff in his past. I don't think really when he was in the league, but there were some character concerns there. He helps them go win a Super Bowl. Arizona, they drafted Tyrann Mathieu in the 3rd round. There was concerns, and I think that was probably maybe a sign of the times. I think it was just like weed. There was concerns with him after getting kicked off the team at LSU. He turned out to be a really productive player. So there's plenty of examples of guys who have stuff in their past that indicate maybe things could go wrong that haven't gone wrong, and in fact have gone on to be very productive members of society and of the NFL. But I think this is just a situation where there's too many sketchy headlines in a very recent period of time. I know it's been a few months since he's really been in the news cycle as we know it, but it's been maybe 4 to 6 months, and that's really not that long of time in the grand scheme of things.
The only comparable player situation with the talent of the player, the success of the player, the kind of diva mentality, and it happened right before the social media actual boom where everything is recorded. We all have smartphones. Was Terrell Owens. And he on the he didn't have, his issues were locker room issues. They weren't character criminal issues like engagements with the police and shit and all that kind of stuff. And he ended up, having 200 yards in a Super Bowl game, being amazing, and actually also was traded to the Ravens for 15 minutes and then didn't want to play with Kyle.
People may be on them.
Yeah, he did. That was like the Bills. AB did that to the Bills. Yep. Yes. So there's another parallel to it, but it's just like a more modern, spiced up version of insanity from Antonio. And that is the best case. for whoever signs Antonio Brown. Maybe it's the Seahawks, the Colts. I don't know. And he ends up propelling them and tech step and all that stuff. It's just, I don't know. It's just, I can't blame them for signing him. I can't blame them for not signing him. It's not something I'm going to be hyper of, kind of like you would be wary if they did sign him. I would feel the same way. You're just kind of waiting. If they do end up signing him, you're waiting for him to go off the rails. You're expecting it almost, and then like waiting to see how the Ravens deal with it, which feels way more likely than it will. So in the end, it's hard to see the true risk. It's also difficult to see the reward. So
yeah. So if they do sign him, let's say, what do you think his role would be? Is he just automatically the go-to guy? Is it kind of trying to work in between him and Hollywood? What do you think that would look like?
I think it's, getting him involved and getting him the ball and having fun and trying to like generate a camaraderie in the team and whatever a little bit. Like you're going to show him some touches. He's also going to get open because it's what he does. But I think I don't think they need to rely on him as like the guy. Lamar is the guy. And, Ben was the quarterback, but AB was the guy. It was the fuel there. The dominant force was not necessarily Ben. It was more so of AB that's getting covered and still produced and all that good stuff. So I feel like kind of like integrate him, but also take some pressure on him. He hasn't played one game in the last almost 2 years.
Yeah.
He has last Steelers. That was 2018.
Year and a half.
The end. Yeah. So like a year and a half, he hasn't, only been on the field once, and produced immediately, but it's a pressure situation. I feel like, letting him do his thing, hang out with Lamar and Hollywood and whatever, but it's just, I don't think he needs to be like, I don't think he needs 150 targets, but I think he needs 80 targets, 90 targets, 100 targets. And I think it just helps. It's hard to imagine a scenario where he's on the football field and it's not making this offense like able to score 40 points a game.
At what point would you let your guard down? We talked about being wary. At what point, how many weeks in do you say, all right, I'm done worrying, if ever?
Never done worrying. I'm gonna. You look at what happened to the Raiders. The Raiders, an inch, gave him a yard, gave him, a driveway, and then he took 10 miles and shoved it in their face and ran away. Caused a shitstorm. You cannot treat him differently in that. Like if you treat him just like any other, you don't treat him like you have to give him certain respects, but you have to let it be known, like, we want you here. We're happy to have you. You're one of the guys. You're not special. We don't need you, but we want you. Hey man, we don't do the whole helicopter to practice thing. You can be you. You can have fun. Lamar and all the guys, big truz, woo woo. They have tons of fun, but they keep it in business. We're about business here. You say business is booming. We want our boom, and we're professionals. Treat it as such. You treat him like that day one, and it never stops. You never give him any extra leeway, because if he's a sociopath, like it seems like he is, and in the end, that is never going to turn out well. But if an inch, he's going to rip it out of your arms and drag you with it as far as he can. So just truly never give him any of slack. You also don't want to put him under
whether it's John Harbaugh or Eric DeCosta, and somebody says you're not special. One of those people is walking out of the room with at least a black eye, and it's not going to be.
Well, yeah. That's not. I don't mean literally saying that out loud. You're right, and I felt stupid after I said it. But like, you don't want to. You make it clear that we want you, but we don't need you, without saying so. But just like, we're happy to have you.
That's where I think
it's not that big of a fucking deal.
That's where I think the human element comes into it. I don't think Harbaugh, especially Harbaugh, I don't think he wants to be tiptoeing around and kissing this guy's ass like Gruden was.
He's not going to.
Exactly. And that's where it would start to combust a little bit, at least in my opinion. And that's where I think they're probably not going to want to go down this road ultimately, because he saw Gruden kissing this dude's ass after he got pretty much embarrassed pretty badly by him in front of the entire national media scene. I just don't think going to want it very much, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, and it just feels very unlikely. I don't think it's going.
When he first got to Oakland, there was a funny tweet. I think it was from Eric Stengel that Antonio Brown has been placed on the physically unable to shut the fuck up list.
Yeah,
which was sick.
Exactly. He might just be a sociopath. He might just be an egocentric, like truly mental case. Like,
yeah,
absolutely insane.
I think it's probably likely that there is some stuff going on there.
But at that point, it's not even
like.
If that's the case, how can he even function? Like, I don't know. I'm not a psychiatrist, but whatever. I don't know. I just have so many freaking questions, and it's such talking points. It's great for content. It's great for our podcast, all that good stuff, but it just perplexes me, and I don't see it likely. But as I said, the best, most likely outcome is that the Ravens kind of most prepare to sign him, but never do. Like, don't actually want to, but like put plans in place and systems, and they talk about it and, internally discuss things. And it's just a fire drill.
It's good for
that's a good thing.
He signs here, and then he has like a 1 catch, like 8-yard game, and you like speak ill of him, and he throws a bag of dicks at your house.
That would be so good for content if he dicks at my house. That would be so good for content.
We could like set up cameras and just have it be like a whole Curb episode of like Antonio Brown threw a bag of dicks at your house, and now you have to like navigate the situation.
And then it shows my face, and I'm like, huh, what? And then it's like, that would all be great. So anything Antonio Brown related is good for content, but it's just interesting to me. I'm so curious. I think he's such a good player. Everyone thinks that, so it's not a special thought or a unique thought.
He's literally one of like the top 3 best wide receivers I've ever seen play.
In our lifetime, it's like him, Julio, probably Calvin Johnson. Yeah. And at their peak, they were the best. Randy Moss. But he's, unbelievable. Seems like he's in shape, all that stuff. I would say the chances of the Ravens actually signing him, if I had to guess, were 15%, like low, but not impossible.
It's not nothing. They wouldn't be having discussions if it was 0%.
And they wouldn't be leaking them either. So it feels like, a feeler.
Shout out to Mike fans getting off the Hugh Jackson beat. Finally, breaking something significant here. Guy fucking blocked me on Twitter for no reason. Good thing I have 2 accounts because I was able to find the tweet with my my podcast account. 3 accounts.
What up, Mike Silver?
Yeah.
Oh my God. But yeah, it's I'm gonna say so. This is my final equation or probabilities of it happening. 15% chance he signs with the Ravens. If he signs with the Ravens, 25% chance it goes well and they go to the Super Bowl. 25% chance they cut him a week or 2 later, and there's like a little media circus for like a month, and then it dies. And there's a 50% chance that it becomes a long story, and he is tweeting and Instagramming, screw John Harbaugh, screw Lamar Jackson, because maybe he gets off it, man. Maybe he was suppressing that, and maybe he just won it. Because I post it. Why do you post it? Because you want the response. You want the attention. You want the response. You want the reaction out of people.
It's not him and Lamar I'm worried about. Him and Harbaugh would hate each other after a while.
And Harbaugh freaking will like lay this on Chris Moore and send Chris Moore out of press like.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why it was always reported he was a player. It was Brian who actually players coach. And then John Harbaugh, and the reason John Harbaugh was brought in was because he was not a coach. He was like dominant alpha figure to try and like be like, this is my team. Like, this is Steve Bisciotti's team, not just Ray Lewis and Ed Reed's team. And like, he pretty much, from what I see, did not say a word to Ray Lewis, like anything.
He kind of outdid Ed Reed a little bit, to be honest. Ed Reed was not a fan of his. He
did.
And now they're like pretty close.
Yes. They
which is not easy to do.
They butted heads. Couldn't think of the right phrase. Butted heads, definitely. But Ray and John Harbaugh, John never imposed on Ray. He was like, this is your locker room. You're the best famer. I love you, man.
He did talk to him about taking away the celebration. But Ray kind of alphaed him there a little bit.
I don't even remember that. I don't know about that.
It was in the America's Game documentary, I think, the 2012 Super Bowl. They talked about how Harbaugh had like discussed maybe taking it away so they could focus more on the team. And Ray said, well, actually, it's more for the fans than anything, which agree with that or not. I think it's more for Ray than anything. But I mean, hey, if it works, it works. And it certainly seems
it wasn't not for the fans, but also was it not for Ray? It was both.
It
was a love affair.
Yeah.
It was a love affair. Ray Lewis definitely got off on it. The fans, including myself, definitely got off on it. But now that we've, come full circle, is what it is. Ravens probably not going to sign it. If they do, probably going to end up like, well, maybe we shouldn't have done it. But we're
in the content game. I mean, this is going to be, we're not even going to have to write scripts up. I mean, we already are pretty like fast and loose with that. Like the
Ravens give us a nugget every single week. Every week we get a nugget. We even got two that amidst the pandemic, amidst the off season.
I wrote that I blogged the AB story today, and I was like, amidst like an election year with a pandemic going on, the NFL still somehow manages to just sneak its way into the headlines.
And the Ravens themselves, who never are like that, are in my lifetime. And it's like every single week we get just a little bit more, just a little bit more. But yeah, that is the summary and the finito of our Antonio Brown talk. We did have a couple more mailbag questions. We'll try and get into them, not too briefly, but we'll try and decisively answer them and keep on moving. So let's see. We also have Harder Swami. Will Ravens have a wide receiver or tight end like 1,200 yards this season? I'm going to go no.
I'm going to go yes. Give me that Hollywood Brown over 1,200.
So let's see. Let's say he catches 1,200.
What did he have? 500 last year and not nearly.
So if he catches 65 balls and gets 1,200 yards, that's 18.4 yards per catch. That would be like if he really explodes, but like that's in this world of possibilities.
I think Lamar wants him to develop and become that number one guy. I don't foresee an AB signing or anybody else that's going to take target share. So it comes down to him and Andrews. Andrews might do it as well, but I got a pretty big hunch in the loins here that Hollywood Brown going to have a big 2020.
I mean,
stay healthy. Like that's definitely part of it. And
if he catches 65 balls, that's only 4 catches a game. And I feel like if he's healthy, that is insanely low for him to only catch 4 passes a game.
I think it's going to be more.
I think
you're looking at some deep balls too, which is going to rack the yardage up.
If he catches 80 passes, it's only 5 a game. So I'm going to say he catches 80 passes this year.
Okay.
And let's see.
I think 80 is about industry standard for a true number one.
Not even. I think it's a little higher. I think like 95.
I think so.
90, 95. Maybe. I might be wrong. But someone who's going to get the target share like he is. The thing is they don't throw the ball that much, but I think he had 100 targets last year, if I'm not mistaken. They're like right around it. Let me look it up. Marquise Brown. He had 46 catches. So it's probably a little less than that. 71 targets. Wow, I was way off. For some reason, I thought he had more. 71 targets, 46 catches, 12.7 per catch.
I was going to say, it really doesn't feel like he played all that much, and he made a lot of hay when he was out there.
I think he was on the field like 55% of the time, if I'm not mistaken. Snap counts, he was on the field 51% of offensive total snaps, 563 snaps. Feels like that's going to be like way higher.
He's no longer injured, and they definitively want him to be the number one receiver this year.
Yes. So I'm going to go with yes. I think I'm going to go with yes. I'm going to flip-flop here because I see him catching at least 75 balls, which is only 4.68 a game, and 1,200 yards divided by 75 balls is 16 yards a catch. That sounds right about his wheelhouse. So yeah, I'm going to go with yes. Marquise Hollywood Brown is a 1,200-yard year. I might have to draft him in fantasy now. Shit. Thank you for asking that question.
I'm all the way in on little Hollywood Brown.
I'm probably not going to draft Lamar because he's probably going to be gone by the end of the second round in like every league.
Yeah, especially if you have a lot of Ravens fans in your league, people are just going to jump all over him. Yeah, I'm probably going to be avoiding him this year. I think my buddy Bobby got him late last year, and I was like, that's a good pick.
I got him 9th round last year in my big money league.
I think he went even later than that in our big one. And I was like, yeah, that's a great pick. I was definitely looking at him.
I was boosted. Christian McCaffrey and Lamar Jackson. It was awesome. Moving on. Skip through the Antonio Brown ones. Connor Cosgrove asks, how will Tavon Young do coming off of his injury? I I think good. I think he'll be good. It's, tough. He's had a couple injuries now. I don't see him ever. He reminds me of Ladarius Webb. Their career is eerily similar in a way. Webby had a little bit longer prime and was maybe a little bit better. Did have a longer prime and was better. But Tavon will still be effective. He's really smart. He's a good blitzer. That neck injury just worries me because neck is not a good place to have those kinds of things. Like an ACL, you would prefer that over a neck injury. Something like a joint or a tendon. When you start getting into the spinal stuff, tough. Restricts your mobility.
You honestly
takes a lot of work.
Break a bone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely.
Ligaments and stuff like that do not.
Yes, definitely. But even further, the spinal stuff. I think he had a herniated disc. Something of the sort.
I thought it was like something different. The problem is it's literally impossible to even look up.
Probably because they probably didn't disclose it all the way. Just a neck injury. Can be several things.
A little tongue in cheek there, but okay. Neck injury.
That's all I can get it up.
His neck.
Oh, I didn't even pick up on the sarcasm there. So I thought you were saying because it don't say like, oh, it was. I don't know the things, but L7 or whatever.
No, it's this is a joke from this other podcast that I listened to. Shout out to Circling Back. Given a lot of other podcasts free advertisement today.
Hell yeah, maybe
which is fine with me. I like those people.
Absolutely. Moving on, Raven for special teams was pretty bad on both sides last year. Does it improve this year? Special teams coordinator Chris Horton was talking about this today.
Hewitt.
He said the return game. Chris Hewitt. Damn it, I did it. Damn it. Hewitt. Chris Hewitt. What is Horton?
It's Horton. I was just fucking.
You son of a bitch. You son of a bitch.
They also kind of like look alike.
See how easy it is? I don't know which one's which. I have to say Horton here's a Hewitt.
Well, I think they like look alike too. They're like younger black guys, right?
I mean, I've never seen them in like a Ravens visor or hat on the field, and yeah, they're like younger black dudes. They're like don't have anything crazy. I don't know. Horton used to have really dreads, or if he had any kind of long hair, anything would be easier for me.
I thought they both had short hair. Maybe I'm wrong.
They're both bald. They both have shaved heads.
Yeah, they're going with the football guy look.
Yes, they both are younger black football guys, like in their like 30s to like late 30s, early 40s, I believe. So always easy to slip me up. So screw it. But yeah, so Chris Horton spoke and said he felt that the return game in general was the worst aspect of special teams last year. Said that today, which is Tuesday, the media call. And I have to agree. I mean, not a ton of explosive returns, a lot of fumbles, a lot of, switching back and forth. And
it must have been the first time they gave up a kick return in a long time, a kick return touchdown.
Yeah, the Bengals one, that was pathetic. They let up like a share of decent returns too. I would have to agree. I think that Football Outsiders still had them at like 7th in special teams DVOA or something.
It must be because of Tucker and Cook.
Well, that definitely is why. But they were saying how crazy it was because they were talking about how the Ravens special teams is less spectacular than usual because they finished in the top 3 like 80% of years over the last 20 years. And their like historical special teams DVOA is like marginally higher than everyone else. So we'll see. They did have Jerry Rosberg for a long time, and Horton definitely wants to make a name for him. He feels like a coach that could definitely move up the ranks and maybe end up being, a Harbaugh replacement eventually or something. Feels like in the same vein if he's able to really take off and improve it. So we'll see. This could be a huge year for him if he's able to get, an elite special teams going again in Baltimore. Moving on, Matty Pine, our boy, asked Jimmy Smith at safety, thoughts? I think Wink touched on that a little bit. Love it. I think we both kind of love it.
Yeah, I actually heard about this morning. Very intrigued by the idea of him having like a future and maybe a second life at safety because he's a player that has been very banged up, very physical style of play for a cornerback who is also great in coverage. So a unique player in that, right? And I think that would translate very well to a traffic controller at safety. Yes, I love him in man coverage on tight ends. That is something I think is a particular strength that he would have. In fact, when they play. Saw a little post on Ravens Reddit. Shout out to the people in there. Great people. I saw a post. I don't think I clicked into it, but who is our Kelsey stopper in reference to who do the Ravens have as a Kelsey stopper? And you just saying that right now, Jimmy Smith potentially.
Yeah, I think that's a good player to match up on Kelsey with. The length, prowess in coverage, the ability to play finesse or physical kind of. Definitely lost a step, but as you said, super physical, great tackler. I don't love him being like mega contact heavy, but he's also going to be like he's now a role player. It's awesome, and I love him in that Brandon Carr role. The one thing I do want to see, he has been such a good blitzer in my unstatistically proven or anything back. I just always feel like
it's a total eye testing, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, like he fucked Jared Goff up in LA.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. He just like fucking suplexed.
He's had a couple of those throughout the year.
Hear the hit.
It was unbelievable. He like basically RKO'd Jared Goff from behind, like rattled him. But I feel like I want to see like 40 Jimmy Smith blitzes this year. I could love him in like a creeper role kind of down in the box in a little bit. The thing is that like he had an injury last year that was bullcrap. He just got rolled up on, twisted his ankle. Happens to the most durable players or the least durable players. But that man is brittle. I mean, he's missed a lot of games. He had a good stretch for a couple of years. Might be Jimmy Smith, in my opinion, is maybe the most underrated corner of this past decade of the 2010s. I mean, he was a legit number one, and it got to the point where no one really had a successful game on him outside of like DeAndre Hopkins once in Baltimore over like a 3-year period. Did really well on AB.
His 2013 season, he played 16 games, I believe, for the first time. It was his first year where he, I think, was truly very good because he had injury and some like poor play issues his first couple of years, and he was starting to look like maybe a little bit of a bust. He came out that year and he just freaking balled out. He was going up against like Jordy Nelson. I think he picked off Rodgers in that game and M&T Bank. He shut down Calvin Johnson against the Lions in one of the sickest Monday Night Football games of all time. Yeah, that was probably one of the best years I've seen from a cornerback like in my entire time watching football. I totally agree that he is an underrated cornerback of the 2010s.
Definitely. I remember watching that Monday Night Football game in the Albert S. Cook Library of Towson University on my laptop, had an exam the next day, and I made a fuss. I made a noisy little library fuss when Tucker hit that old 61-yarder. But yeah, Jimmy Smith, love the idea of him at safety. Moving on, AB. Whitehead Will asks, who's the most likely cap casualty next offseason? So let's go and take a look. That would be next offseason.
I might have to pull the spot track up here.
I am. I can't do that alone. So let's see. How do you do? So 2021, they still have Peters. They would still have Orlando Brown and Mark Andrews.
I mean, would it be Earl?
It's Judon, too.
Yeah, but I feel like
he's not under contract. So you're saying a casualty. So let's say cut pre-June 1st. Right? So Earl causes $10 million in dead money.
Interesting. If it's people are always talking about him as a guy they can get rid of next year.
I think post June 1st you can like designate him, and it's a little bit different. But he costs $4 million to cut next year. So let's see. Brandon Williams, you save around $5 million, $5.5 million. You take on $5 billion in dead money. Mark Ingram, that's the most likely one. $1.3 million in dead money, $5 million in new cap in money opened up. So I'm going to go with Mark Ingram.
And that's why you draft J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons, Whiplash, incredible movie. Yeah. Moving on. Adam Jones, 57 the clock.
Situation.
Is he rushing and dragging?
Yeah.
You're going to have to make, we'll make a sick highlight once he actually takes off with the Ravens of like in the open field.
I'm gonna that video that I made of him in the Michigan game, which was a great video in its own right, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I'm definitely there's going to be a lot of Whiplash usage over the course of J.K. Toppin's time in Baltimore. And
yes, of course. But the 5-time Gold Glover, Miles Teller in a good movie. Who would have thought? Couple good movies. He was in that movie, the firefight, the Hot Shots or whatever.
He was in
War Dogs. Remember exactly. War Dogs was pretty good.
War Dogs was good. Like he was in that college movie. That was pretty funny.
Project X.
No, I think it was different, right?
No, he was in Project X though.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Very like not much. He was like a star baseball player that was coming to party that everyone cared about going to the party.
So he's like Mike Dexter. Shout out to
Pretty much.
Can't Hardly Wait.
Pretty much. But yeah, Miles Teller, our boy, as well as J.K. Simmons and J.K. Dobbins. Adam Jones 37. How does James Prochet take his game to the next level without gaining separation? N'Keal Harry-ish? Question mark. I think Prochet gets a little separation. He thrive in those contested catch areas, but he is not. N'Keal Harry is more athletic than James Prochet and gains less separation. Like James Prochet is a good route runner, just not like an explosive route runner.
Find a soft spot in the zone guy.
Yes, exactly. That's where his thrive is.
I mean, that's part of it. The other part is just like muscle guys out like inexplicably because he's like really not that big.
Kind of like Willie Snead.
Yeah, and he doesn't look like he's that like much of like an absolute.
Willie Snead is actually a good comp for him in a way.
Yeah, I agree with that. I never really.
Me neither. He like likes to block, kinda. He like is pretty squirrely in the open field. I think he has a little more. I think he has a little more juice. But Willie Snead actually used to be a lot fast on the Saints before he got injured and stuff. But then he also asked Adam Jones also asked, how will Duvernay be used in the offense? Like him a lot as a prospect. Is he the next McLaurin type? No, he is not McLaurin type. McLaurin gets separation because he's a route runner and he's even the Duvernay and he's stronger and he's better.
McLaurin is number one wide receiver in the making.
McLaurin is going to be an all-pro wide receiver in the next 2 years and then consistently. Reminds me of he's like Andre Johnson, but even faster. I think Terry McLaurin's incredible. But Duvernay is, a traits guy. We've talked about him a little bit. He can take the top off in a straight line. He is fast. He can hit, 21 miles per hour. So that's a good thing. He is not a sharp route runner, but similar to what Jake said about Prochet, he's really good at kind of throttling down and finding a soft spot. He can accelerate and decelerate very well. He's a good feel for zone coverage.
So I know we have some younger listeners. I don't know if like this is going to go over anyone's head, but think what you wanted Michael Campanaro to be and just like a souped up version of that. And
that is such a good way to put it. I like that one a lot.
Kind of a weird body type, looks a little bit like a running back, good with the ball in his hands, can be used in several different ways.
Returner type.
Yeah, I do think he's faster and hopefully more durable than Campanaro. I thought Campanaro was going to be good.
Campanaro was like slippery, sneaky good. He was just always hurt.
Yeah, he just couldn't.
Shout out River Hill High School, go Hawks. But Duvernay, screen machine, throw him a lot of screens, let him go sit down, run some hitches, just sit past the linebackers and find those soft spots, all that good stuff. Otavio Molar asks, which are the best weapons in Warzone? Sniper, assault rifle, and SMG. I like the AX-50 with a variable zoom, and then everything, like you put stock and everything, long barrel, everything you can to make it not kick. AR, I like the M4, M13. Those are my favorites. Again, do everything you can to increase the accuracy and decrease the recoil on them. SMG, I really like the Uzi. I really like the Uzi as well as the MP5. The Uzi is a weird one, but I like, if I'm running around before I get a loadout in Warzone, I like to grab the Uzi because it has very little kick and it shoots decently quickly, and it's a consistent gun before you have your loadout.
Love to get a loadout quickly. I haven't really played a ton recently. I played a little bit at launch. I used to be a big COD guy back in like the Modern Warfare 2 Black Ops days. So as far as Warzone, I've played a little bit with my buddies. I do like to just kind of grab a standard assault rifle, and then if I can find a sniper, I'll have that as my secondary because I just feel like the general secondaries aren't really like worth it for a big free for all type game like that. I forget exactly what you call it, battle whatever.
Battle.
As far as video games, though, I mean, if you're not playing Last of Us Part 2, what are you doing?
What are you doing? And Mong 12 asks, with Queen starting at Mike, what role do you see Malik Harrison having? Guess third string Sam. So if you go on the Ravens website right now, it lists Malik Harrison as his starting will. I believe Wink also mentioned, and maybe it was Harvey T. Harrison.
Queen is the default Mike, right?
He is. Harbaugh already said, and they have him on the website, that they expect him to be a 3-down linebacker starting at Mike, which surprised me. I guess it makes sense in a way.
I expect him to be there, but I was going to say, like, it feels like they're going to move him around a little bit, no?
Yeah. No. Apparently, they just want Queen at Mike. They want him, and the difference in Mike and Will, they're not that different in a lot of ways, and the Mike and Will have to be interchangeable because, say, You align so that the Mike is the strong side inside linebacker in a 3-4. And then let's say you're playing the Chiefs and Travis Kelsey's on the left side of the line, which defense, that means strong right, and the fullback or whatever is on the right formation. Then let's say Kelsey goes back across. Kelsey goes the right tackle instead. The play is now strong left. You can switch or can stay, and the Mike and the Will have to just do the other responsibility depending on how they play it. So you have interchangeable to an extent. I would say the prime difference is that means if Malik Harrison's playing Will, as they say, they're going to split snaps with LJ Ford essentially, the Will is going to be the backer that in pass situations and stuff is a chase player that's going to chase the running back out of the backfield and kind of mirror it a little bit more, going to blow a little bit more. Think of Patrick Owasso versus CJ Mosley, while that would mean that Queen is kind of sitting in his hook zone, reading the quarterback's eyes and trying to pick up on the play and jump, passing lanes and stuff like that, which for me doesn't make sense because I like Malik Harrison's ability in zone coverage as a linebacker. I don't love his ability in man nearly as much as Patrick Queen. I see Patrick Queen being the more agile kind of chase player, which Malik Harrison is athletic enough to go, run with a quarterback and hunt them down and stuff, but being a strong side linebacker a little more. So I was a little taken aback, and I wouldn't be shocked if it ended up going the way that I say, but according to what the Ravens are planning is Patrick Queen at Malik Harrison at Will, splitting share with LJ Fort. And Mulsing, you mentioned him playing Sam. He played Sam his sophomore year at Ohio State, and then Sam and I think Will his junior year, and the Mike his senior year. He has some experience at Sam. I could definitely play him Sam. Moving on, we got B Rose 931. Could you guys see a trade for D Ford, Melvin Ingram as a realistic or affordable possibility? So, Jake, is there a world where you see the Ravens trading for D Ford or Melvin Ingram?
There is a world in which I see it happening. I do need to look up how much they cost as I filibuster here.
Melvin Ingram, I believe, is around $12 million this year, so he's not crazy expensive.
D Ford,
and then D Ford is like $1 million, I think.
13.
Pretty sure D Ford has
15.
That's Melvin Ingram third.
No, D Ford is a cap hit of $15 million.
15. And Melvin Ingram is $16 million.
So not unless you move on from Judon.
Yeah.
Right. To which I really.
Or they.
Go ahead.
I would say that they're not going to keep Judon and grab someone, but yeah, if they really wanted to, I think they could.
Yeah, it just feels like you're shuffling a lot of chairs on the deck at that point.
Yeah,
very close to training camp opening. So probably not unless they do something creative, getting rid of Judon. Maybe you try to bring in another player and you bring one of those guys in and maybe you restructure them. It seems like just a lot of gymnastics to play for getting a player or another player who maybe is a little bit better than Judon, especially in the case of Ingram, I think, but maybe not worth the hurdles that you're going to have to go through ultimately. So I'm going to say no, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think as well. I've liked the possibility of Melvin Ingram. I was so sure that he made less money than $16 million this year, but he does. So I was wrong there. I don't really love D Ford. I think D Ford's a good passer, but Judon is just a freaking scheme fit. Like what they want him to do, dropping into coverage a lot.
That's the passer, yeah, right.
He plays those overhang defender roles a bit, drops into coverage a lot. Melvin Ingram could that, but he's a little older. Judon, I was posting some clips the other day. He is fast. He's a fast guy for his size, like very fast. He can move in space. He can chase really. He can kind of take some crap-ish angles at mobile quarterbacks and still kind of chase them down. We saw that against Deshaun Watson a couple times. So I'm happy with the edge rushers. I would like my boy Ryan Anderson, who apparently does not want to remember his grandkids' names, according to one of his teammates from 2018. The part of that story, if you actually read it, that is so much better. It's much better. Is that apparently this guy was like a practice squad tight end that ended up saying all this stuff, and he said that after Ryan Anderson would literally spear him in his plate and like knock him to the ground, he would call himself either the Billy Goat, the Goat, the battering ram, the sheep or something, because he apparently just loves to use his head. And like he was just like imagine knocking someone like pancaking someone on their ass and then being like, yeah, I'm the Billy Goat, bitch. Like, what?
And Black Betty just starts playing, and Coach Taylor yelling at Riggins to get up and stop being hungover.
Exactly. That is exactly as I see it happening, essentially.
So that was like a practice squad player, you're saying? Because this has Chris Cooley leaking it to like 106.7 The Fan or something written all over it.
Yeah, it was a practice squad tight ends. They're the best. They really are the best. Otavia Muller asked as well, do you think we will explore Ricard more as a receiver? I think he's always open flat, and he destroys the cornerbacks there. I think they'll explore him more as a tight end. I think he'll play a few more snaps as a tight end with Hayden Hurst gone. I think that was part of the reason why they wanted to trade Hayden Hurst, because they were like, oh, well, we can have kind of Ricard sometimes play Nick Boyle's role, and then Nick Boyle play Hayden Hurst's role a little bit, and Andrews play his own role still. So, yeah, I could see him catching like 13, 15 passes, touchdown or two, for sure. Then he also asked, rewatching the 2019 tape, Jake and Spencer, who has played better and worse than you originally thought? Better is Seth Roberts. I don't, but like I thought he was at the time. Just feel bad for him because he had that drop that was really weird, and like it was kind of a wonky little pass, and it just snuck by a DB's hand, and everyone now remembers Seth Roberts as essentially Lee Evans almost. But really efficient, chains a lot. I think he doesn't get enough love. Someone who is worse than I thought.
Lamar Jackson.
I'm gonna go Marlon Humphrey.
Interesting.
He got beat sometimes. He was really good, but he was playing slot. Like Tyler Lockett. I just watched the Seahawks game, and Marlon like thinks the world of Tyler Lockett, because I don't think he quite anticipated having so much trouble with him. And Lockett kind of beat up, but didn't like knock him out. Like Lockett like finessed him on like he had that like really weird one where Russ looked up in the end zone, and like Marlon held and then didn't know where Lockett even was, and then Lockett like dove and scooped one out of the dirt for a down, and he had a couple deep catches on him. Marlon, yeah, he that, and then a couple times when he blitzes, they would try to use him to overhang blitz, and he just comes in too hot a little bit sometimes. Takes himself right out of the play. Like Jared Goff like whipped around on him, did the old Tony Romo little 180, and left Marlon Humphrey in the dust, and he should have had him for a sack if he just kind of slowed up a little bit. So I think Humphrey isn't, I think he's like a top 5 corner, but I don't like a lot of Ravens fans want to argue that he's like as good as Stephon Gilmore or something. I don't quite see that there. But he is really good, and he is young. So I think maybe a little over Marlon Humphrey, but he still was really freaking good. He deserved to be an All-Pro.
Yeah, I watched Hollywood Brown recently, and I came away even more impressed than I thought I was going to be. And I was already impressed with him watching through the regular season, but he just has that thing, man. Like I talked about the wide receiver ones thing. You just know it when you see it. You know it when you see it with this guy. He can take over games. His chemistry with Jackson is just unbelievable. So I think he would probably be the guy that I would say better, even though I already was impressed with him as a rookie. And like I said, I think he's going to have a very big season this year in all facets. As far as guys that were not as good, that's actually a good question. It's tough because they all kind of played really well. I would probably just say maybe more turnovers from Earl Thomas. I haven't even like broken down all of his tape, but just like from a stats perspective, it felt like he was hyping himself a little bit as far as, taking the ball away. He had a couple, but maybe a few more would have been what I expected. But other than that, I think he played well. He took away one half of the field, and yeah, that would be my answer.
I think Nick Boyle also played a little better as a receiver, I thought, as I've been going through. Catches, I think he could like his blocking, he's fucking fine. Need to work on blocking this offseason, this training camp at all. If he can expand just a little more and be a little bit of a threat, be like a good fantasy receiver in this offense with Hurst gone.
I was watching that Cincinnati game a little bit. He looked great in that game as a receiver.
Yes. And he had that like one where he like
he was a bowling ball.
Jump, dive, slot. Like he had 3 catches.
He almost scored his first touchdown on, I think. Or maybe
he had 3 catches that he got hacked or like was down inside the 2 last year.
Yeah.
So secret, sneaky fantasy tight with, as I mentioned, Mark Andrews does banged up a little bit, and Hayden is gone. Don't be afraid to rock. That might be a very stupid take at the end of the year, but
We could
it's like a
stash him.
14-team
Nobody's
league.
going to be like drafting him highly.
He'll probably be on the waivers. I'm gonna in things which I prefer over fantasy now. I'm going to hammer him so much. I did a couple times last year. It didn't pay off or bite me in the ass that because he was really cheap, but I enjoyed it anyway. Malkin12 says, where does Jamal Adams end up? I want to say not the Cowboys and not the Ravens. I think the Bucks would make sense.
Yeah, I think it's the Cowboys personally.
I think I'm gonna go Bucks or Eagles. Those are my guesses. Just because I feel like when these big meets happen, like a request a trade, they never the teams that get talked about them. Like the Ravens aren't going to be, but the Colts are, or something like something random. I don't know. Like Jamal Adams isn't going to the Cowboys. He's going to go to the Eagles. Something. The Eagles should trade for Jamal Adams. They have needs at linebacker and safety and deep safety, and he checks off all three of those. So I think Eagles would be very wise to pump a first and a third for him if that was possible.
It's just
and it's like out of conference.
It's a hunch for me, and also a little bit of as a Cowboys fan, it's a little bit of a wish fulfillment thing. I think he winds up in Dallas.
We love the Cowboys, so that'd be sick.
Yeah.
We love the NFC East in general. Like this is an NFC East positive podcast.
Yeah, it's the best.
The most entertaining division, in my
sure.
opinion. Unless you like AFC North ball.
Yeah, I mean, I have to watch it. Like that's, I mean, last year notwithstanding, that's pretty much been my relationship with the AFC North football for the past 24 years.
Yeah, it's a grinder. It's a meat grinder. But we have digressed. That concludes the mailbag. We've got an hour and a half for you guys. The last thing I want to say is that don't live in fear of Lamar Jackson's contract. He's not going to get paid new money until like 2023. He's not going to cost $40 million until like 2025 or 2026. He also I'm such a dick right now and maybe get some middle fingers, but he has had one good year. Like he could very easily in this world, like not ever be MVP again, like not be quite great. Like we have to wait and see still. So many things could change. People are scared of what COVID's going to do to the set cap and all this stuff. Like Ravens are fine. Cap wise are in place. Like stop being like, oh my God, they have to pay Lamar. Like that's years away from happening. The Chiefs ain't made Mahomes yet, and he's already won a Super Bowl and is a year ahead of Lamar, who was drafted a year before. So relax on that. That's my out.
Yeah, I think the way social media has developed, every fan is an expert on everything because they have access to all the information that they did not have before. Yeah, so Spencer has just showed me a picture of our mother and father, Eric and Lacey DaCosta, on vacation. Probably up in Cape Cod or something like that. Maybe Martha's Vineyard, having a good old time up there.
Got a lobster roll.
Going, catching some clams and some lobsters. Having a couple beers, socially distanced over at Patty's Pub down on the docks.
Pub. We're talking Lamar contract, whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, I think just like fans are, with the way social media and the media in general and the internet has developed, every fan is an expert on everything. And because the whole like rookie contract, you have to win a Super Bowl thing has become a little bit of a blueprint, everyone just automatically looks at that and says that's the way you have to do it. It's not necessarily the way you have to do it. You can win a Super Bowl in many different ways. That's my take.
Absolutely. And the Ravens will win a Super Bowl before Lamar is paid. The Ravens win a Super Bowl, and that's the closing note.
There you go. Ended it on a hot note. I like that very much, but really appreciate you guys listening to this Wednesday edition. We're going to probably try and get one out before the end of the week. We are aiming to do another rewatchables, including Voss this time. We're looking at, what was it, week 2 of 2012, week 3?
Wait, what? Oh, the rewatchable. I think you're right.
Yeah, it's early. It's Sunday Night Football early in 2012. the Tory game over the Patriots. After his brother passed away, he went out and went absolutely bonkers. And I guess you're just going to have to see what happens. I mean, if you don't already know, go to NFL Game Pass. I think you can still get it free, correct?
Yes, it's free through July. Then they played in the AFC Championship game later that year, but it's not that one.
Yeah. I think it's week 2.
I'm just double checking. It was 2012.
Yeah.
Steelers, Titans.
It was the year
Rams,
they won.
Jets. I'm not. I must be on the wrong year. That's 2011. That's 2011. And it is week 3.
Week 3 of
New England
Patriots. Yeah, it's Joe Flacco in his prime, Torrey Smith going nuts in a very emotional game. Ton of fun, that one. So go and check it out on NFL Game Pass. Like he said, it is still free through July, so we'll try and get as many of those in as we can. Then maybe we'll switch over to the ones that are available on YouTube, or just subscribe to Game Pass like we do. I mean, come on. Get it.
If you have season tickets, it's free. I would definitely recommend subscribing. Of all 22, they have coaches film. They also have film sessions with Brian Baldinger and Jaws and like Stephon Gilmore, Amari Cooper, Fletcher Cox. Yeah, Deshaun Watson, all kinds of awesome film sessions that'll help you understand football more for sure. Highly recommend NFL Game Pass. Look it up, get it.
So get that. We'll be talking about it a little bit more on social media, so you'll have an opportunity to look the exact game up if you don't know what we're talking about. But yeah, it's going to be a fun one, so be sure to tune in for that. We'll try to have it out by the end of the week. Going to see what's going on with Voss and some of the technical stuff that he has going on as far as his recording setup. But yeah, he
had a nightmare. Voss had a nightmare. He had 17 things in his house break at once during quarantine. So,
which is also really sick when you're like a father of multiple children and like a business owner. The guy doesn't have enough going on in his life. But yeah, stay tuned for that. Really appreciate you guys listening to what turned into a pretty long one. That AB stuff went pretty long. Mailbag, great questions as always. So went over an hour and a half. Look at MD Law So Hard tuning in as I do my walk off the
outro.
Yeah, thanks for that, bud. You can follow the show on Twitter at Podcast Beatdown. You can follow me at Jake Luke. That's LOUQUE. You can follow Spencer at Ravens 4 Dummies. That's the number 4. You can follow MD Law So Hard at MD Law So Hard 2. Follow us on Instagram at Baltimore_Beatdown, where you can post mailbag questions. You can also shoot them to us on Twitter, and we'll be trying to get to them as well. Probably cross paths. Did you go to Salisbury, you little B word? He's saying we cross paths it through, huh? Interesting.
Little son of a bee. That means he like was stalking you kind of a little bit. That means he probably like saw you and was like, I'm gonna go breathe his air, but not tell him.
Well, I was not a podcaster at the time.
Ah, never mind. I thought this was a recent thing.
No. He Banks was talking about Cookout coming to Baltimore. I don't know if you know Cookout.
I wish, yes.
Yeah, they have one in Salisbury. So we were mentioning it up a little bit about how I spent a lot of hours that I don't remember in Cookout on Route 13. But yeah, so follow us on all the social medias that we were just talking about. Just found out you went to Barry, and I'm just finding out you did too. So there you go. Sick. Sure, they have a tremendous law school down there. I don't know much about it, but
go Seagulls, Seahawks,
yeah.
Seagulls,
Gulls. Yeah, just go roll Gulls. Sometimes they say. But yeah, really.
It sounds like I'm gargling.
You're what?
Go Gulls is like go. Sounds like I'm gargling.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, a couple natty ices deep, and it definitely no law school didn't go there. Okay, that clears that up. I was gonna say
he's from Salisbury. I bet he's from Salisbury. That's son of a B.
Okay, yeah, that's possible. Because I was like thinking about it. I was like, I don't recall them having a law program, but you do you. I'm really just landing the plane like an absolute champ here.
At Podcast Beatdown, Baltimore Beatdown. Follow us. Get on Instagram, search us, leave 5-star reviews, leave us iTunes reviews, pump us up those charts. We love you guys. I think we're to hit 100,000 already. Downloads for 2020, which is so sick considering it's the off season. Trying to get to 250. That's our goal this year. And we love you guys.
Follow at Sandwich Wednesday on Instagram.
At Sandwich Wednesday. Follow at Wednesday. Giving out a sandwich via Venmo every week for favorite sandwich, encouraging people to come together between 2 slices of toast and eat some good sandwiches those days. Have lunch with the world.
Also,
Love
friend
you
of
guys.
on Nike Run Club. And
Nike Run Club, yes. Nike Run Club, Spencer Schultz, Jake Luke, spelled how many pounds, except Luke is actually Louque. And as we run around town, and you can join and see where we're running and compete and do events and challenges and all that good stuff together. But this was a long one. We hope you guys enjoyed. As Jake said, we'll be back to review the Torrey Smith game in 2012, week 3. And that's going to be a fun one. And we will see you guys soon.
peace out.
See you.